land and homes increased to the point that for most people under the age of 40, the hope of owning their own home has been lost. The response of governments around the world to the 2008 global financial crisis and COVID was to defer the cost of these events to the future. They did this by printing money, in effect selling our futures to pay for their bad decisions. This is corporatism, not capitalism. Money printing didn't hurt those in power, nor those who supported them, because they had real assets, property, shares and businesses that rose in price to match the inflation of money supply. But for most of us around the world, it sold our future for a fraction of its value. In response to this, a mysterious figure known as Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin. He wanted to create a currency that could not be printed on command, thereby devaluing our labor. A currency that could be traded electronically between people without intermediation, allowing all of us to participate fairly in the economy. But if you tried to buy your groceries with Bitcoin, you'd stand at the checkout for at least 10 minutes, probably hours, waiting for the transaction to process, and the fee would cost you more than the carton of eggs and bag of apples. Bitcoin's limitations meant that it stopped being considered a currency in 2016 and was instead called a store of value. But it opened the door for someone to create a genuine currency that nobody controlled, but everyone could use. That someone is us. We created the Gajumaru blockchain and the Gaju currency. The Gaju is real money you can use, whether that is to buy a loaf of bread, pay for a haircut, buy a t-shirt, in fact buy or sell anything. It is a currency for everyday use. On Gaju Market, anyone can buy and sell any legal goods or services, just like you would on eBay, but at a fraction of the cost. Like Bitcoin, Gajus are mined on a computer. Unlike Bitcoin, mining Gajus does not require specialized equipment, nor huge power supplies. During our protected rollout, you can mine this on everyday computers, like the ones that sit in your home doing nothing for most of the day. We are working to get millions of people like you to mine the Gajumaru and be rewarded with Gajus that you can then use as real money. At the end of 2026, the Gajumaru will open to public mining. By then, we will have brought together millions of people like you to mine the Gajumaru. This will create such powerful combined computing capacity across so many millions of people that the Gajumaru can remain highly decentralized, enabling an economy for the people, by the people. To make all of this possible, we offer a variety of mining packages that combine all of the software and services you need on our website, gajumining.com. The software is simple to install, and there is a step-by-step guide that will get you mining and participating quickly and easily. You can buy those packages now. You can start mining the Gajumaru and being rewarded in Gajus now. Select a suitable mining package from the gajumining.com web store. Install and activate the software on your device and start mining today. This is an opportunity to be part of a movement to restore our humanity, our dignity, our sovereignty, creating a better future for everyone. For the first time in thousands of years, you will directly benefit from your work, your ideas, without being taxed by intermediaries or needing permission to be part of the global economy. We believe that capitalism is I win, you win, we all win, not I win, you lose. That's corporatism. We refuse to pursue venture funding that would demand we play the corporatist game, and chose instead to grow this movement by giving everyone the opportunity to benefit from their contribution to the movement. Just like being able to mine Bitcoin in 2008 or 2009, getting early access to mining the Gajumaru now allows you to mine the greatest number of Gajus and benefit most from being part of this movement. We want to share that with you. We want the whole world to be part of this. We want everyone who cares about our future to get on board and take this from a movement to a reality. We want to see an economy for the people, by the people, now. Join us. Put your fingerprints on humanity's story, our history. Be a leader in the economic emancipation of humanity. It's simple. Go to gajumining.com, select the mining package that's right for you, and get started today.
All right, guys, welcome to the latest episode of Blood Money. We're very happy to have you here. Thank you for looking at our sponsor's message there with gajumining.com. That is a great new crypto. Highly recommend you guys check out. gadjumining.com. I'm going to bring in our guest here, our very special guest, who's running for California governor. How you doing, sir?
How you doing, Mr. Miller? Good evening. Good evening to all your fans and your watchers, listeners, and watchers.
Thank you, man. Thank you, Leo. Your last name is Naranjo?
Naranjo. Yep. Spanish in
Naranjo the
nature.
Fourth. Very cool
Yes.
name, man. Very cool name. So I'm very excited to have you on, man. We wanted to interview all the candidates for that are running for governor. There's obviously a very crowded field in this race. I recall watching your interview on Kim Eater. And Leo, I was actually very impressed by what you had to say. So I'm very happy to have you on the show. Let's just dive right into it, man. Tell us who you are. Tell us a little bit about who you are. And I'm going to let you run with it. I'm going to turn off my camera here and let you do some talking here.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much once again. It's a pleasure to meet you. Very first time. My name is Leo Naranjo the Fourth. I'm born and raised here in Northern California. Sacramento is my home city. And when I was a teenager, I had the unpleasurable moment of having to decide to go and continue an education after high school or to help out my parent in order to keep her home after a very messy divorce. And with little options available as a teenager at that time, I decided to join the military at age 17. Of course, I needed my parents' permission, so my mom was duly selected to sign for me. Most people will say that I blackmailed my mother. I like to say I convinced her with hard thought and arguments. But the bottom line is I ended up getting signed and enlisted in the military and delayed entry program in 1979, actively joined in 1980, and I stayed on active duty until my retirement in 1995 as a sergeant. From those postings, I've been overseas, mostly in Germany for 10 years, Stuttgart, Ludwigsburg, Rheinberg, Army of Occupation in Berlin. I was deployed once for at least 5 months in Kuwait, Camp Doha specifically. I've been assigned to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and my final stopover was in Fort Stewart, Georgia. During that time frame, I picked up 2 accolades by assignment, World War II vet and Persian Gulf War I vet. Afterwards, I had a complete meltdown, didn't feel like doing much. I was resistant to get anything. The Army kind of broke my spirit. And until I got remotivated again after about a 3-month pause, I went into some light work and security, dipped around there until finally I got into what I did before, which was financing. So I enrolled in and got accepted for employment with the state of California Franchise Tax Board. 4 years later, that didn't pan out for permanency, and I got picked up by California Sacramento County Department of Human Assistance, where I stayed there for 11 years until I retired. Little pause again until I was picked up by the federal authorities with the Bureau of Reclamation, where I stayed for 6 years. And after undergoing and getting ready to undergo the Doge cuts, I decided I didn't want to do that a second time. So I retired from them. That was kind of convenient for me because I'd already been making noise about running as a candidate. And I used the word exploratory heavily, a little bit of deniability there, in order to run and not tick off the federal authorities till my retirement, in which case now I'm a full-blown candidate running just like most other folks here for the governorship of California in 2026.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So your military service, man, let's talk a little bit about that. Because it sounds like you had probably some challenges in your childhood and then going into the military. I mean, tell me the impression that made on you. And the reason I asked that question is because some of my favorite candidates usually tend to be military members. I think there's something to be said about service.
There is. It is a lifestyle that I don't necessarily encourage people to do offhand. I'll have a discussion with folks about joining the military, give them some of my experiences that I've had when I was into service. But the biggest thing is I try and ensure that people understand what it is they're about ready to do when they're getting ready to sign on the dotted line and take that oath to become a member of our armed forces, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, Army, Space Force. Now, it doesn't matter which branch you pick as long as you serve, but understand what you're getting ready to go into. Right now, as a civilian, you have a lot of life of luxury, so to speak. You have a lot of rights that you get to express and live out on. But in the military, you're not there to exercise your rights. You're there to protect the rights of others. And it's a hard world to suddenly go into some place where it's do as I say, not as I do, and snap to when I said it or else. When you're going from day to day of, well, I don't feel like getting up today at 7 o'clock. Oh, you are in the military. I don't feel like getting my hair cut today. Well, you will in the military. So there's a lot of changes there. I didn't start because I was gung ho for the United States of America. I wasn't a Patton fan, as you can say, really supportive of the old glory. My need of getting into the military, because at 17, how was I going to make a house payment and keep my mother afloat before she was insolvent, and pay the bills behind that with no experience, still in high school, little job education of anything, much less of life. And Uncle Sam was the way that I found that I could do so, help my mother out. My primary reason was to help out my parent. Once she got on her feet and told me that she was financially settled, now I started to open my eyes to see where I was at, what the world was there, what it was doing for me, and what I was learning. And I learned a lot from the service. I learned the good things, the bad things, and the indifferent things.
So let me ask you, man. There's a lot of candidates running. How would you be different? And feel free to dive into it. I want to hear your policies. I want to hear what makes you uniquely qualified. So tell us what makes you the best candidate in this race.
We have some military personnel that are in the race. Yes, we do. And I thank them for their service coming up on November 11th, honoring our Veterans Day, both current, both looking forward to, and those that gave their all. Thank you for those gentlemen who served in their time. I'm uniquely qualified as a military member because not only have I served, I retired from after 15 years of honorable service. So my certificate is there. I've been with government working through the agencies, both the state level, the county level, and the federal level for up to 30 years, including my service time. That's almost 31 years of government service. I was also during this time frame a member of the union. So I know that I've lost some people already because I was a union member. Yes, I was. I was elected as a steward. I was elected as a chief steward. So instead of representing 10 or 15 people in my capacity, I now represented almost 2,000. I was elected to the board of the governing board, where we sat down with the county officials, negotiated contract, working conditions, et cetera, where I also negotiated individuals who were accused of wrongdoing and ensured that if they did receive a punishment, it was not overblown and it was fair and equitable to what the charge was. So I have that experience behind me. Monetary experience, 15 years in the military. You give me $1 million and tell me it's all mine, I'll do all kinds of wonderful things with it for me. But if you give me government money and tell me I need to watch over this, spend it prudently, dispense with it prudently, and account for it at the end of the day, I will do that without question because that was my specialty. And I'm very keen on government money to this point. When we just saw a posting tonight, people talking about stakeholders. It's a disgusting word I can't stand when it's used in government. Stakeholder. What the hell is a stakeholder? They never tell you, they never explain it. But government officials are always quick to say, we're doing this because we've had talks with our stakeholders, so on, so forth down the line. And oh, yeah, by the way, the citizens are included at the end. Well, as a governor, my status will be, if the stakeholder word is utilized, the only one that I'm open to hearing from are the citizens of this state. Those are the stakeholders, and those are the primary people that we should be talking to. So my policy is basically I'm running for the citizens of the state. Please note that I did not say I'm running for Californians. That's a very expansive amount of personnel in this state. My stance has been very clear, and I'm the only one who has said it openly. I'm running first and foremost for the citizens of this state. We have problems here in California that need to be resolved. We need to do it effectively. We don't need to keep spending billions of dollars on problems and then turning around and saying, well, we can't fix them because I need 20 billion more to fix it. No, we already gave you $50 billion to fix the problem. Why do we still have the problem? And that's where we are today as a society.
I mean, what are the things in California that are most broken that you would want to address most ferociously?
First and foremost, we're going to end this nonsense called sanctuary state status in California. We are not separate. We are not separate but equal from the rest of the country. We are part of the Union of the United States of America. And as a state, we're going to start falling in line with our other states. Sanctuary status is in its entirety protects individuals from the law, protects individuals from wrongdoing against the citizenry of their state. We have cities that do it, towns that do it, the state does it, and for some strange reason, it's been allowed to exist without challenge. Well, that's one of the first things that we're going to get rid of that nonsense of status. We're going to change how we look at law enforcement in California, where we start bringing respect back to law and order, and it's not just a talking point to be used for political expediency. Vis-a-vis the case when we have these colleges, and I understand colleges, wonderful place to be if you're a young person, you're trying to learn the world, express your ideas, maybe clash with some fellow students over your ideas, but you have the arena of ideas to hash out and hash over. Freedom of speech, we call it. Yes, all for that. And we have dissension on college campuses. Yes, all for that as well. But when you start taking it to the level of you're impeding others, you're disrupting others, you're making demands, you're taking over, you're destroying, spray painting, burning, torching, looting, whatever the case might be, you've lost that privilege of First Amendment, and you've now become a mob, which we're going to deal with. And one of the ways that we're going to deal with is we're not going to solely punish the workforce. We're going to start putting those people in charge and holding them responsible. So in other words, if you're a dean that has lost control of your college to a mob, you failed to protect the other students and allowed them to learn, you're going to be removed. Those students that do that takeover of colleges and impede others and take over institutions, burn them, destroy them, whatever the case might be, you'll be given 5 minutes to disperse. 3 of them are already gone. And 2 minutes after that, we're going to do the roundup. Everyone's going to be removed from the college. And that's the end of that. We're going to restore law and order. And you have to bring that back. You can't keep arresting people, turning them around and saying, go do what you do. It's a misdemeanor. And maybe 5 years from now, we'll think about charging you. That has to change in this state.
Okay, let me ask you, are you comfortable talking about some of the other candidates and comparing and contrasting? Because there's such a crowded field right now that I think it'll be nice to hear how you differ from others.
We have just witnessed today our president, who is a Republican president of the United States of America, literally endorse an independent candidate while a Republican is running for office. And I'm speaking of the mayor of the New York City race, which, if you're following the news as of right now, Mr. Mondani is now their first Muslim mayor. What has happened to the nation? But be that as it may, you have a Republican president who just acknowledged an independent candidate over a Republican candidate. And there are lots of bylaws that Republican groups have that tell us that that is not an action that's acceptable. And then we went and doubled down on the effect by encouraging other Republicans to do the same thing. I get the implications of that election in the overall sense of for the benefit of the nation. But let's be a little bit clear about this. 8.5 million people live in New York City. Do you mean to tell me that Kenneth Sliwa was the only Republican they could muster who had the gumption to stand up and say, I want to be the mayor of New York City, and that wasn't good enough for anybody? If there was a better candidate, it should have been picked. So do I have an issue with speaking with candidates? There's an old unwritten rule about Republicans don't generally go after Republicans. I think that rule has been long shot out from under us with today's declaration. I think that rule for that time frame was good, but for today's world, it's not so good, because right now we have a candidate full of Republican individuals running for office, 24 by my last count, but you only hear about 2, and that's wrong.
Yeah, that it's horrible, man. It seems like the Republican kind of, controllers in California have made a decision, which I've heard from the other candidates because we've interviewed a number of them about how, they just decided, I guess, that, these people are going to help us fundraise. Could you talk a little bit about that at all?
They our top 2 candidates right now, and you've heard the wordings, you've seen the news reports. Chad Bianco, Sheriff of Riverside, Steve Hilton, purveyor of all kinds of things, make America golden again, make California golden again. You ask anybody on the street, they'll tell you those are the only 2 candidates they're aware of. And it's not the selection of choice. You have 24 other candidates. And when I tell people that, they look a little shocked. When I tell party people that, they're stunned. And most of them discount anybody other than those 2 candidates that the party has selected. And bear in mind, they have selected our choices that they want you to vote on. Not that they're great candidates, not that they're winnable candidates, not that they're good candidates. It's the ones they've chosen because they buy tickets and they sell tickets for our party functions. But are they there to win a race? Not really. Are they there to challenge the Democrats and actually be competitive? Not really. They're there to endorse dinners, functions, sell tickets to events so that localized candidates can run with party support. And even that's questionable because those people want to determine who is able to run as they see fit, not what you want to do as a citizen. They want to tell you what to do. And that's another problem that we have here in this state is that grassroots people literally have zero chance to run for office. You and I are the same, but if we're not in their camp, they'll let us run for dog catcher. They'll let us run for water district. They'll tell us to run for something small. But if you have any aspirations to go higher than the mediocre amount of what they're telling you to do, they'll look at you as if you're something on the street that they scrape off the bottom of their shoe. They'll look at you as you have no chance. Why are you even considering it? Nobody knows who you are. And then there's what I call the 3 questions of death. How many offices have you held? How much experience do you have in government? And how much money can you raise as a candidate? So let me take the first 3 questions and apply it to one of our top 2 candidates, Mr. Hilton by name. He's never held office, just like I've never held office in the United States of America, much less California. Check, we're both even there. He's never had experience in government in the United States of America, much less California. Check, we're even there. Oh no, Leo, he's had experience in England. And look where that nation is at today. Well, I've had 31 years of experience with government throughout my career. So I guess you can say we're even there. How much money can he raise? He's Steve Hilton. He's got a platform. He's got Fox News. He's a millionaire. He's got all kinds of ways to raise money. How much money can I raise? How much money can you help me raise is the question. And the bottom line for that question in total is, how much money do you expect me to raise in order to win a race? And bear this in mind, and please go back in your memory banks. Carly Fiorina didn't raise any money of her own, but she used her own money. $140 million came out of her purse to run the race for governor, and she lost. So the question shouldn't be how much money can I raise? The question is, how much money does it take to buy the governorship? 140 billion can't do it. So what's the expected number? We are near equal there. We have experiences in our own way, in our own version, but I'm not leaning towards socialistic values like my counterpart is, disguised as Make America Golden Again. And when you dive in deep into his stuff and look over his framework, that's what you're going to find. And that's very scary to see that coming up as his goal. A lot of go green. We already have comments that he's made against grassroots, against their interference with the process and the procedures of the establishment, what he'd rather see happen here as opposed to what we're doing here. He's a candidate, and unfortunately, he's one of the top 2 and the only 2 that the party acknowledges. So it's a long fight, it's a long battle, it's a hard battle, but it's one I'm up to the challenge to do.
Awesome. So, Mr. Hilton has obviously been leading some of the polls. I assume that's why you're naming him. But recently, today, a poll came out where I guess Chad Bianco's leading by 2 points, according to this new poll. So, do you have any thoughts about the other potential Republican frontrunner?
The polls you're mentioning, yep, I've seen those. Both gentlemen have come out on X. I'm up 20 points. I'm beating Katie Porter. I'm beating the field. I'm in the lead. That's interesting because 3 weeks ago, we had Carl DeMaio come on about the no on Prop 50 status. And the update that he gave was as he's looking over the polling numbers, he quickly discounted any other name on the gubernatorial list. And according to Mr. DeMaio, the only 2 names that he was going to mention that were worthy of being mentioned were Hilton and Bianco. And his polling numbers came out to 9.9% for both of those individuals. Now, if we're going to start playing the poll game, then let's play the poll game in its entirety. Hell, I've just bought my own poll and I'm up 25 points from everybody based on the people that I paid for to conduct my poll. And then don't forget, we're going to go in the poll game, then answer the question, please. If polls are everything that we need to trust and we don't even need to verify about, we're just going to listen to the polls, then explain to me how Hillary Clinton was not our president in 2016. If we're going to believe polls and the numbers that they provide, then explain to me how Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, because the polls were the indicators of everything other than what happened happening.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I'm curious, man, like running for office, I've done it once. It's very, very hard. I could imagine trying, and I ran for a small thing, I could imagine running for California governor. I mean, what was within you that inspired you that, hey, I got to run for office? What was it that you saw? What was the trigger?
The trigger was after watching for so many years, COVID, since I was a teenager, where we started to head as a state. When I was in the service overseas, watching what California was enduring, seeing what people were promising, and even watching people of my own unit make promises and guarantees, and nothing came about them. I get out of the service. We hear about candidates who run. We hear of the promises, the platitudes that they make, and we never see progress. We always seem to be in a race, but we never quite seem to win it, no matter how hard we try. Usually the first excuse out of everybody's mouth is the demo's cheated. After 30 years, that becomes an old song. Well, we didn't have enough Republicans vote. Well, after 30 years, that becomes an old song. Well, we didn't raise enough money. Well, how much damn money do you need to raise? Because that becomes an old song as well. And so when I finally had the I guess you could say the calling from the Lord that hit me and gave me the function, direction, and the purpose of what I needed to do. Here's what I'm going to do running for governor. And this is the type of candidate I'm going to be as I run for governor. First and foremost, for the citizens of the state. That's number one. Secondly, my reasoning for running is, in order to be a successful candidate, people, I think, are smart enough to understand BS when they see it. And they can pretty much detect it from a candidate if they talk to them long enough, if they hear it. You can't BS everybody all the time. You can't give promises and guarantees and expect people to believe you because they've been hearing it for 30 years, loss after loss after loss. Prime example of that is Brian Dahle in the 2022 election. Republican Party would have you believe he lost by 48% with a vote count, highest ever achieved by the Republican candidate. And he just barely was edged out by Gavin Newsom, but that's not true. Look at the entire population of eligible voters in this state and break down the percentages of who actually voted. Brian Dahle got 16% of the vote. Gavin Newsom got 24% of the vote. Combined, they were less than half of the state voting out of 30 some odd million people eligible to vote. So that means that we had over 50% of our public clock out of the political process. And I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, no party, Green Party, Independent Party, 50% of our citizens quit. Something's wrong with that picture coming into this election. You have to be, in my opinion, you have to be stalwart on what you believe. Your plank has to make sense. It has to make common sense. It can't give promises and guarantees that amount to nothing. We've already seen that. And if you're not stalwart behind your plank, if you're not convicted with your plank, and you can convince people of where you are, then you're not going to make it as a candidate. If you can't get people to trust you, and then in order to trust you, then they might vote for you. If you can't do that as a candidate, you're toast. I don't care how much money you have, how popular you have, how many TV shows you have, or anything else. And this election is going to prove that out. This is about earning people's trust and to earn their vote. And we have too many people running around here right now who are basically putting themselves in the position where they expect you to vote them. I'm a Republican. You have to vote my way because I'm a Republican and I'm the candidate that's the Republican for you to vote for. But okay, that's all fine and dandy, but why would I trust you with my vote when you're telling me that I'm going to have to vote for you? Because straight up numbers in California, we are outnumbered as a party 2-1 to the Democratic Party. The GOP in California tells you that all the time, has told you that for over 20 some odd years. We're outnumbered 2-1. So if you as a candidate expect to win a race in California solely on the Republican portion of the voters, you're toast. We've lost, period. 2-1. It's simple math, straight.
So,
You
so,
have
so, so you have to appeal to Democrats. Your
you
point.
have to bring over people to understand where you're coming from. You have to encourage them to look at what they have as options. You have to present them with viable reasons and explanations of why they want to vote for you, which means you have to earn their trust in order for them to give up their vote. If you can't do that, you're facing 2-1 odds. You're not going to do it. And trying to hope that the Democrats don't go to the polls is lunacy and fantasy.
Wow, wow. So we just witnessed today, we're November 4th, Tuesday, November 4th. There seems to be like, we're at a crisis point at this point. If you see what's happening in New York, a communist just got voted in over there. Seems like we lost Virginia. It's looking pretty bad, and looking at what happened and realizing we have 20 something candidates running for California governor, it seems like there's a lot of cannibalization that's going to happen. But you tell me, interpret what happened today and how that's applicable to what might happen in California in 26.
I will say this as a Republican candidate in California about what happened in New York. My opinion only. It's not my problem. That's the problem, New Yorkers. They voted for that. What's happening in New Jersey and Virginia? Not my problem. Those people voted for that. What is happening in California is my problem and my concern. Are there some similarities of what's happened in those states that could trickle over here? There's a lot of things in California that probably trickled over there. You have people here in California who seem to be fed up, but they don't seem to be quite fed up with where we're at. We have people in California who basically have already voted in the 2026 election. They did that in 2020. It's cost us a congressional seat already. It's cost us 2 million people's worth of voters. It's cost us billions of dollars of tax money and business money that's fled. Those people have already voted because of the nonsense we have here in governance. But it doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter what a candidate tells you. It doesn't matter what a candidate promises you, guarantees you, the party says one way or the other. At the end of the day, the voter has to make the choice and the decision of which way they want to go, in the gutter or towards prosperity. And it's that simple. But we also have to understand and realize what happened on the East Coast of our nation is symbolic about what's going to happen to this nation overall through all of the states. And that's the age difference of what we now have as an electorate. The older generation is slowly but surely fading off into history. We've endured wars. We've endured poverty. We've endured the failure of the economic system back in the big crash of the Wall Street crash. We've endured famines. We've endured droughts. We've endured fires, conflicts, combat, you name it, we've endured it. But the generations of today, they haven't endured as much for as long nor as often. And they're embracing ideas that look appealing because they don't understand that their forefathers have been combating those very same feelings and forms of government for years prior. And I'm talking specifically about socialism/communism. It's very appealing to young people. That seems to be what happened in New York. A younger generation has moved in and adopted to something that looks neat because the two parties that we have failed in everything. It's both parties that have done this. And if this continues along the path, older generations are going to slowly be the stalwart that's going to falter to the new mentality of thinking, hey, let's try this form of government without understanding the consequences of that form of government. And you're witnessing that now in the East, specifically in New York. That's going to have ramifications. And now New Jersey and West Virginia, or Virginia itself, those are going to have ramifications. And we have that same problem here in California.
All right. So, how much of this is education? We've allowed education to just, get off the rails. I mean, when I was going to school, I remember communism was cancer. And obviously, I went to school in the 80s, early 90s. I don't know what happened there. I don't know how that, we were taught like communism is bad, communism is bad, to all of a sudden, a lot of these kids want to be communist. What's going on there? Is this like, is it educational brainwashing? Is it the media?
I think it's a combination of both: lack of education, the media influence, the left of influence. We have a lot of now migrations because, let's be a little honest. When the wall fell, when we beat the Eastern Europeans in the Cold War game, the world changed, but the world changed subtly. We have a lot of people now migrating into the U.S. from different areas. And I recall one time I was looking at a coworker while I was in security, and I kind of stared at him for a while. He got a little uncomfortable and he asked me what I was looking at, and I said, "Well, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you have to understand where I'm coming from. For the last 15 years, my country taught me to kill people like you because he was Russian. And yet here he is, my coworker in the United States of America, Sacramento County." So you have a lot of folks coming in. You have a lot of folks with their ideas of where they came from coming in. And it's very enticing to people who don't know any better, who have never lived through the hardships that some of the older generations that we have lived through. They think these are neat ideas, and they're seduced by the colorful ways that they're described. The media helps them because we have a lot of people that don't like America, and they're propagating this nonsense. And it's just the culture of time. They call us boomers, baby boomers. Well, eventually we're going to be gone, just like the World War II era folks right now who are disappearing little by little. And then pretty soon, what history do you have standing up against communism, socialism advances? You won't, because we barely have anybody in today's world that's a younger generation that has ever truly fought against those visions of the past.
Wow, wow. I mean, it's scary that, like, before there used to be this, you became Americanized when you came to this country. I mean, that
Yep.
was part of, I'm of Armenian descent. A lot of the Armenian folks I know in California, I mean, certainly took on the American culture, but also embracing the past.
Mhm.
But that seems to have gone away. And what I'm hearing from you is really scary, because that's what happened in Germany. Germany let in a bunch of immigrants. Those immigrants, especially, I believe it's a Turkish population, never really assimilated. So you have this kind of enclave of 8 million people that are living a very separate existence than what is considered German. And now I'm seeing that here, where this idea of Americanizing oneself seems to have gone away, and everybody wants to bring all their crazy ideas from nations that they escaped from, which kind of doesn't make sense, because if you escape from there, certainly they weren't doing things as well as we're doing here. So what happened to that idea of becoming Americanized and embracing the culture?
We've allowed political correctness to creep into our dialogue. We've allowed political correctness to creep into the politic itself. In my opinion, we've allowed political correctness to do a lot of things that are not correct, but at the detriment of our nation and of the population. You have little enclaves, little Saigon, little Italy, little Turkville, Chinese section, Saigon section. You have this section, that section. We have 40 different languages on paperwork now. You can't vote without getting a pamphlet 2 inches thick for every language that's available for every person that's here to speak something other than English. And so we're slowly but surely eroding our own identity as a nation. And for those people who probably don't agree with me on this aspect, I can only tell you this: what makes us unique as a population beyond color, beyond our background, beyond our ethnicities? The fact that we're here as Americans. We're totally different from any other nation on this planet. We're totally different in our form of governments from any other nation on this planet. And there are countries out there who despise us for it. They don't want citizens to know what freedom is. They definitely don't want citizens to be armed to be able to fight back. And they sure as hell don't want to kowtow to their citizenry, because they're the government. It should be, in their eyes, citizens kowtowing to them. And that's what happens when you start losing your identity and you stop being Americans. As a famous movie commentary said, you stop being Americans and identifying that you are an American. And in America, we should have only one language that we use consistently: English. If you don't like it, learn it. If you don't want to learn it, I don't know what to tell you. Does that mean that we erase our cultural backgrounds, our cultural identities? No, we don't do that at all. Be proud of who you are and be proud of everything that your family tree has brought you to this point today. But today, if you were born here, you're an American and you have American values. If you can't accept that, then we have problems in our country that's going to fester and blow up at some point.
Yeah, yeah. What's the single biggest danger to California in this country right now? What's the biggest one that you are most terrified of?
I'm not going to say I'm most terrified of a danger within our nation, but what I do see, or what I could see happening, is down the road, 30, 40, 50 years from now, it's possible, is that you're going to see a repeat performance of the 1860s playing out in the 21st century. You're going to see something that's going to drive America to do things to the benefit of America and the detriment of citizens who are not going along with Americans. And you're going to have that as you see conflicts around the world, as you see dangers around the world. The biggest one right now is the Muslim aspect of coming into America and practicing Islam on the shores of America. You've got a lot of communities that are already up in arms about Islam and what they're doing. You've got a bunch of communities, and I think that I've been catching on Twitter from time to time. They're having debates about Sharia law. Why are we even having that discussion, much less a debate about Sharia law? There is no Sharia law in the United States of America. End of story. Now, if you want to instill Sharia law, you perhaps probably should go back to where that's practiced, because it's not practiced here, nor will it be. And if you want to rebel against that mentality, that you want to practice Sharia law against what our Constitution allows for, we're going to have a problem. And it's going to be a big problem given the numbers that people keep talking about. I can see that happening 30, 40, 50 years down the road.
You're talking about civil war?
You can have internal conflict. I don't know if you call it civil war, but you will have internal conflict. And if that happens, it's going to expand to all kinds of explanations, reasons, and excuses. It's not something that I will say I foretell. It's not something that we're going to see in our lifetime. I'm saying that if things continue on the path that they're going, all you have to do, everybody wants to point out, hey, look at California. What happens in California happens to America. Well, God bless you for saying that. How about we look at England, look at what they're doing, and wonder why the Europeans beyond England are going through the problems that they're going through? Because a lot of this mess started with the fall of communism, with the fall of the wall, with the open borders moment. Look what they've done with nonstop, no questions asked immigration. Look at those nations today and what they're going through. And since we always like to say what happens here happens to us, what happens in Europe at some point will either drag us into something or it'll start happening here.
So, like, some of the younger generation, I always hear where they're highly critical of the baby boomers, and you're a baby boomer, obviously, so this isn't
Evidently.
but like, they're really going off on the baby boomers. They feel like the baby boomers have not done justice to this country. And look, I look at what's happening, this idea of communism, them going forward towards free stuff. And then I also look at the youth, and they're all in debt, and there's not opportunity like there was. And then there's AI coming, and there's lack of jobs. So in a way, I'm an old fart, but I could relate to their angst, and I could see how they're being misguided in these directions. I mean, what do you say in terms of past generations and how we got here to this current moment?
That's a good question. It's not an easy one to respond to, because, I don't live in other people's homes. I can't say what's going on in their lifestyle, why they're having financial problems. I could give them a hand to explain where their financial problems started. I could probably give them some experience on how to get out of it. They wouldn't appreciate what they might have to cut, but they wouldn't be insolvent or stressed as they seem to be currently today. We have a generation that looks at boomers and they just scorn us. Oh, you old people, be glad when you're gone and you're not here. You're an impediment to this. You're an impediment to that. You're an impediment to the old ways. You can see some science fiction movies about how young people thought about old people. And come to find out, young people generally were still looking for the old people to get the answer right. You can have, as we move into economic changes in our society from the past to the present, as we look up technology changes from the past to the present, and the potentials of what's going to happen to our nation in the future, much less the world, at some point in time, it's going to be really neat to be able to build the toy that you think is going to help your life with everything under the sun, and have no concept of what to do when the toy starts acting up and acts independent. So then what are you going to do? Ooh, we got to ask the old people. Well, the old people aren't around. Now what are you going to do? That's the moment where you have to grow up and figure it out on your own. And many of us have already done that, which is why we're trying to impart the knowledge and the skills to the younger people on what not to do to be in that situation where you're broke on the street, homeless, addled with drugs, addled with alcohol, or something else of that nature.
Let me ask you, what would you say is your greatest skill? Like your greatest skill that you think is going to come in very handy if you are successful with the governor run?
I think one of my greatest skills is in being able just to deal with people in general. I mean, I've dealt with people in the military most of my 15-year career, excuse me. I've had opportunities to speak with soldiers one-on-one, to speak in groups of soldiers one-on-one. I've had the opportunity to command soldiers in settings. I've had that same opportunity to speak with individuals when I worked security, whether it was neighborhood security, mall security in Roseville, industrial security in Hewlett Packard, hospital security in Kaiser, again in Roseville, California. I've dealt with folks in the state level, dealt with folks in the county level, and with county officials, again, as a union rep, representing contract and negotiating with those people of the political persuasion. I've dealt with people in the federal moments. And for most of what I've dealt with, it's very easy to figure out the person that you're talking to. If you want somebody that's a straight shooter, here you go. If you want somebody that's going to tap dance for you, here you go. If you want somebody that you want to have present you a magic show and dazzle you with brilliance, but baffle you with BS, here you go. Whatever you'd like me to do, I'll accomplish for you. But at the end of the day, you're going to think you got something and you didn't get jack diddly. I'm going to get some exercise and that's about it. So my concept has always been in dealing with the public. Even when I was a welfare worker with the county, look, I'm not here to BS you. I'm not here to tell you anything that's overwhelming that you won't believe, because what I'm going to explain to you, you're either already living, you've lived it, or you know somebody that's going through it. I'm not going to tell you platitudes. I'm going to tell you the facts, the truth of where I'm at with the information you give me to work with, and we're going to come to a solution. It's that simple. So if you want, and I used to tell some of the what we call clients in the welfare department, I used to tell those folks, if you want somebody that's going to be a yes man, then I'm not your worker. Go find another one, but it won't be me. If you want somebody that's going to stroke you and make you feel good because you fell down, I'm not the guy that you want as your worker. Don't go to me. But if you want somebody that's going to truly and honestly try and help you in your predicament to get you out of it, then I'm the guy that you can rely on to get you where you need to go. But it's a two-way street. You have to help me do this. I'm not the only person in California that's going to be running the state if I'm elected governor. There's all kinds of other people who are going to be there with me. Can I get them to join the program and help out? I hope I can. Will there be resistance? Hell yeah, there will be, because people won't like success. They won't like winning. They won't like positive outcomes. They like the state being in a mediocre sense. They like the state being in a loser status because it gets them money and the opportunity to raise funds to make promises that we all know they'll never keep.
Tell me a little bit about some of your work in welfare. You're talking about how you help people get their life back together. You know,
Sure.
give me a case study example of what you're referring to.
Well, one fast one that comes to mind, and I wanted to utilize this particular example, speaking with the Women's Federated Republicans here in California. And disclaimer, if you guys are listening, you're going to hear this one up front. I had a young lady that came into our office. She was one of my clients. And at the time, our clientele was 2,200 to 2,500 people a worker that we dealt with. And she came in and I noticed her in the waiting area. And I was trying to figure out, how am I going to help this woman do something different with her life? Because every day it seems to be the same thing. She's always coming in, um, going through life, but not really living it. If you can picture that sense of the word. She had her eyes open, but they were lifeless. There was no excitement. There was no pizzazz. There was no nothing there. She was existing. And she came in for this particular day. I had to sit down with her, and it was to give her about a $300 clothing voucher where she was to go and buy some clothes that the county allowed for. And when I got everything prepped up, I told her, at the end of this conversation, I want you to go out there, do me a favor. I want you to buy something other than black, dark brown, or anything that has a dark coloring in it. If you can't do that, don't come back looking for me, because I'm not going to be your worker anymore. And she was stunned. Holy, really? Are you telling me that? And I said, yes, I am. This will be my last day I see you. If you come in with something that's dark, bye. I'll send you to another worker to deal with. I'm not going to deal with you. So she went about her way, and she came back a few days later. And the one thing I noticed is, a fashionista, she was not, but that wasn't the point. It was the energy that she exhibited in her face, in her mannerisms, when she came in, and she proudly showed me the dress that she had. It was very vibrant, and it was really an uplifting thing for her, because you could see in her face the excitement and the joy that was hidden for so long under the veil of, I'm just existing. She now had a spark inside of her. And I had to tell her some bad news. I said, ma'am, unfortunately, our county is going on rotation, so I'm going to lose you as a client. I just wanted you to know from me that the county is getting ready to shift your case out of my control. What? Who do I need to speak? Do you have a supervisor here? Yes, ma'am. I want to speak to him. They're going to want to know why. Tell them it's personal. Thank you. I'll get them. And about 10 minutes later, the supervisor came out of that conversation. Don't worry about her, Mr. Naranjo. Her case isn't going anywhere. And that woman never had fought before for her rights to do anything on her behalf. And here she just did. So that's what I mean by at least being impactful.
Wow. That's actually really powerful, man. Really powerful. That's like tangible change that, a lot of people talk, and, I mean, you obviously know I'm not, just a couple of candidates I'm not that crazy about, they're going to change this, they're going to change that. But you're talking about like actually changing a person's life and bringing a spark back into that person.
I'll give you another fast one, if you don't mind. I had a young lady that came in, and from my military experience, we look at people. Military people can understand this. You look at individuals top to bottom. It's something we learn in the military when we're doing inspections. And in this particular young lady, I noticed that she had in her hip pocket something that looked similar to a switchblade. So I asked her, I said, ma'am, did you read the signs before you came in the office? Yes. Do you know that there are no weapons allowed here in the office? Yes. Ooh. But do you have any? No, I have no weapons on me, Mr. Leo. Well, I think you do. And unfortunately, I have to bring the sheriffs in to double check for both of our safety measures. So I called in the sheriffs, and they came in. Yep, sure enough, they found an 8-inch switchblade on this woman, confiscated a blade. We did conducted our business, welfare business on her behalf. She was a little perturbed with me. I could understand. And away she went. About 2 weeks later, same woman comes back. We sit down, we're going over her welfare case, and she says, I just want to thank you because I think you saved my life. Excuse me? What did I do? You saved my life. How did I do that? Well, remember that day I came in and I had my switchblade? Yes. The one I had confiscated from you? Yes. Yeah. Well, I was mad, and I did what you told me not to do. I made a shortcut through an empty field in the middle of the night, and I got jumped and sexually assaulted. Oh my God. But you just said I saved your life. So how does the two equate? And what that woman proceeded to tell me was, when she got jumped and assaulted, she was held down, and her assailant patted her down, and his hands went to the exact same place that 8-inch switchblade was at. And she had no idea, if he had found it, what would have transpired to her. Would she have been found 2 or 3 days later, or would she have been able to make it to an emergency service if she'd have been stabbed or viciously assaulted with a weapon? And so she wanted to thank me, one, because I told her not to do that. She did it anyway, found out about that hard lesson. But two, she had no idea when she was getting assaulted what he would have done had he found that blade. And she thanked me for saving her life and getting it confiscated, which it left me like, wow. On the one hand, I thank you for telling me that, but I feel horrible that you got assaulted. And so I turned her into the Weave organization, Women Escaping a Violent Environment, and get her assisted and everything else she needed. But that was a powerful impact as well. She was perturbed at what I did, but at the end, she was thankful that it turned out not to be the ending that it could have been if that person had found that weapon.
Wow, wow.
And that's another one when I mean about, let me introduce you as far as who I am and what I can do and what I have done in the past. When I tell you that I'm an impactful individual, that's exactly what I mean is impactful.
Man, you have like a kind of it's funny because you're very smart, but you also have an everyman's approach with just how you present yourself. And
I'm not an Arnold Schwarzenegger type guy. I mean, if you see me, I'm an average Joe Blow. Look at my shirt.
yeah,
Sons of arthritis, ibuprofen chapter. I got a little comedic sense to me also. I'm just like your average Joe Blow guy. Hey, look, I'm not a millionaire, a billionaire, anything of the financial rich, established type individual that you see courting around right now as a candidate. If you have $9 a gallon of gas in California, unlike rich people, they don't care about that. It's not even going to impact them. You and I are going to be crushed with that weight. Businesses are going to be crushed by that weight. So when you have a candidate, Steve Hilton, running around here talking about he's going to bring down the price of gasoline to $3 a gallon. I'm going to bring it down to $3 a gallon. Let me tell you, California, you'll thank me. Wow, really? How mediocre can you be? And how much of a loser is that? Because I've turned around from a video that I had in Georgia where I visited my daughter with my wife to make sure she was okay. And standing in Costco, gasoline was $2.48 a gallon. If you want to go with the $3 a gallon guy, he's over there. But the one that's going to fight to bring it down to $2.48 or less, that's me, and I'll be standing over here.
Wow, wow. All right. So, last question, and I'm going to let you take the mic and, whatever you want to tell the people out there.
Sure.
Newsom, what the hell is going on? Like, how did this happen? What's your thoughts on Newsom? Yeah.
That's mean. Oh, that was a baited question. Thank you for the question. They always say that. Thank you for the question. Mr. Newsom, Gino. And for you folks out there to think I'm being racist, Gino stands for governor in name only. It's not a slur against Italians. Grow up, please. Governor in name only Newsom, Gavin, as we'll call him today, the best thing that he's done for California in his 7+ year term is be termed out. That's it. Nothing else that man has done in California has come to fruition for anything positive. Maybe for him, but not for us. He's destroyed the state in ways we could have only imagined that somebody could actually do on their worst day. He's done it by purpose, not by accident. He's caused us our first loss of a congressional seat in over 175-year state history. Billions of dollars of taxes by our rich 1%ers leaving. Billions of dollars in taxes by the companies that have vacated California en masse. He's about to jack up prices for oil and gas to $9 near 10, according to the pundits, once the two refineries close in LA and in Benicia. He's causing a nightmare in Palisades by refusing to move on those people's territory and homes that have been burnt to the ground and are still to this day nothing more than ash and rubble. So instead of building those homes back, he's encouraged the real estate buddies of his to swoop down there, buy out what they can. And now under the process of NGOs, we're going to start building high rises to house the homeless or to quote unquote affordable housing that nobody seems to be able to afford except a select few. What the hell's going on? This man is just like a squatter being forced out of a home he's no longer allowed to live in, and he's tearing it up every day he's getting forced out. We had an opportunity to remove him in September with a recall election. Thank you, Mr. Randy Economy. But the powers that be thought that that was a stupid maneuver. He'd already survived a lot. We just going to take him out the normal way. Well, the recall election was to get that man out of office 7 months earlier, not to have him linger for 7 more months to do what he's doing to us right now. You talk about scorched earth. That's what this man is doing. And people are worried about Gavin and his 2028 run. So, in answer to that fast question, what do I think about Gavin Newsom? I don't. I could care less what that man is doing. Should I be elected? The only thing I want him to do is give me the keys to the office and get the hell out of my way, because I don't care where he goes, what he does, what he says, what he explains. It doesn't matter to me. He is a useless individual for this state. He has been. And if the country has figured out that they want him as a president, God help us as a nation, because we've got some very, very problematic issues throughout all the other 49 states. But we have candidates right now that are paranoid of Gavin Newsom running. Why? They want to be on his podcast, Mr. Hilton. Why? What are you going to have a discussion with him about? There's nothing to discuss. Get the hell out of my way and let me fix the mess that you've created, is my stance.
You know, that brings up one more question, actually, accountability. Like, there's been a lot of shady things that have happened with, this rail system, money missing. I mean, a lot of money missing, a lot of like shady things like the shutdowns and the destruction of businesses. There's some candidates I've spoken to that are, they want accountability. They're a little more hardcore where, some are like, let's just turn the page. Where do you stand on that topic?
Accountability. Oh, that word accountability. I could care less about accountability. That's where I stand. They want to have accountability and they want to go hardcore because they're the candidates that are going to demand justice. Constitution says so. State constitution, country constitution, California constitution. Woohoo! I could care less about accountability. We are all accountable to somebody or something. What I'm looking for is responsibility. Who the hell lost $30 billion in the EDD department in California? But I'm going to find out. How much of that money are we going to claw back? My goal is 75%, and we're going to try to make that happen. Where is all this money going for that train to nowhere? That's going to be stopped, and we're going to redirect those funds to other projects that are more pressing in California. What happened to the EDD money that the feds are now calling due against Californians to the tune of $18 billion that businesses are now slapping on a 1 to 2, maybe 3% surcharge to your diner meal? If you haven't noticed that, that's because they're paying higher EDD insurance rates to pay off that $18 billion debt that Gavin stuck us with. Well, we're going to use some of that train money to get that out of our hair. And then I'm going to demand from the businesses that they drop that 2% charge on their costs so that we can get at least a break somewhere, somehow. That's what I'm going to do. I'm not here about accountability. I could care less about accountability. I'm holding people responsible. If you are part of that mess in EDD, you're getting ready to be unemployed and use their services. If you are the 1 or 2 individuals that were workers that helped you do the scam, you should have been dealt with. If you had 20 or 30 individuals that were doing the scam, we're getting ready to gut some of those supervisors and managers above them, because that is not an employee problem. That is a managerial supervisory problem. Call your union, call your lawyers, call whoever you want to call, but we're getting ready to do some fixing in some institutions in this state that have been too loose and too footloose and fancy free with tax dollars. Stakeholders, I already said that previously, stakeholders to me is the public, not some fanciful word for some unknown entity that you refuse to identify in conversations. And while we're on this topic, NDAs will not be allowed if there's any use of any type of state money, no matter who or what you are. Whether it's material, whether it's an office, whether you, the individual assembly member, is talking the negotiations. If it involves tax money, there will be an accounting and transparency. But this crap about NDAs will not happen again, and we'll hold those people responsible.
I got to ask this question too, man. I'm sorry. I told you that 2 questions ago.
No, you're fine.
You're bringing up some questions. So, what we've observed at our network and podcast is that our court system is just off the rails in every way possible. It's almost as if the Constitution does not exist. Big topic that we've been really involved in is family law, because there's a lot of stuff happening over there that people keep complaining about.
Oh, if you only knew.
Hey, man, rock and roll, bro. After I'm done with this question,
Sure.
We've had people like Adam Vina, who lost custody of their child who at a very young age because the mom wanted to transition the child from male to female, which, at that young age, a lot of people object to that sort of thing. But because he rejected that notion, he doesn't see his kids. We have another gentleman, Jeff Younger from Texas, where the ex-wife brought the kid to California. Now he has no access to the kid. Again, the kid's getting a transition, as a very young child, pre-puberty. So to me, this just, personal opinion, this just sounds crazy. Seems like these courts, starting with the family courts, all courts seem to be off the rails, but especially so with the family courts, which I don't think are doing anything pro-family. But love to hear your thoughts on that.
Remember, I said I worked with the Department of Human Assistance, Sacramento, California, for 11 years, and I represented them, the workforce there, as well as the workforce throughout the Department of Human Assistance in Sacramento, California, to include Child Protective Services, otherwise known as CPS. They have a very colorful history. We had an example of two individuals that got away from one of the children's centers there on Watt Avenue and Auburn Boulevard, I believe. They died. One child died getting hit in traffic. And the only thing that came about for that fix was they fired a program manager. But it took the death of a child to have that happen. But that problem had been there for years. We talked about it as a union. They knew about it as management, but they did nothing until the media got a hold of the death of that child and made it a national thing. Then suddenly they crucified one of their own, which took forever and a day to do. That's not what I'm for. I understand that we have a Bianco that sits on a family court who somehow is related to the other Bianco who's running for governor. Mind you, that gentleman, haven't forgotten about him. He's next. But we have that family court. We have a lot of judges on courts. We have a lot of judges all up and down this state. A lot of them were appointed by Mr. Newsom. So unless there's something in the Constitution, state level, county level, country level, anything that tells me what I'm about ready to say I can't do, this is what we're going to get ready to do should I get elected to governor. Many of those people are going to come off the bench. If you are appointed by Mr. Newsom, prep up your resume because you're not going to be on that bench much longer. We're going to remove you from it. I don't care how good you are, how bad you are, whatever the case might be. If you are appointed by Gavin, you're going to soon be gone. We need to have people who are going to uphold the law, not uphold political preference. We have a transgender problem here in California because it's turned into a political nightmare of an argument, and it shouldn't be that hard to figure out. Girls, to me, belong over here in the girls section, boys over there in the boys section, and if you're a transgender, then we'll make you a section. If you want to be in sports, we'll make a sport league. We'll support that. But this nonsense of forcing men onto women, forcing women to accept that their mental defects, Temecula School District, and that paperwork you've thrown out there that I've stood against, that nonsense needs to stop. And all of this BS needs to come to a drastic halt. It's not that hard to figure out. Gavin could do it, but he doesn't want to. Lawyers have to be dragged in to figure out the difference between a man and a woman, a boy and a girl. Oh my goodness. My viewpoint is this. I don't care what you want to do with yourself when you're 18 years or older, not in school, i.e. high school, because you are declared by the country to be an adult to make your own decisions. Now, whether or not you can is debatable, and we're not going to go there. But as far as the nation goes, at 18, you're an adult. You can do whatever you want to do as long as it doesn't infringe on anybody else's rights. So anybody below 18, still in high school, you belong to the parents. That's it. You don't belong to the teachers. You don't belong to the state. You don't belong to some doctor that thinks that they want to turn Bobby into Sally and Sally into Bobby or vice versa. I have no beef with the transgender community, but I do have a problem with people that are making decisions for individuals who are unable to make decisions on their own because they're still considered to be children.
Yeah.
If you want to start doing that and you're a medical physician, I'm telling you right now, find you a good lawyer because we're getting ready to go to court over your termination and or possible charges for what you're doing to a child. And if the parent is consenting, then you'll have a co-conspirator sitting next to you facing the same charges. We're not going to be playing pansy and pussyfooting with this around like we've been doing time and time and time again. You see the parents out there complaining. You see individuals out there standing up, trying to stand against. I've been down there in Riverside County, and I stood next to Poly High School, and I stood next to Temecula. Obviously, as a male of my age, I'm not going to impose myself on those people. It's school property after all. But I did cut loose a couple of videos saying that, hey, you guys want to have that discussion and you need somebody to stand with you. I'm in Northern California, and I'll do my best to do just that, stand with you. But no other candidate that I'm aware of has made a stance on this topic. And it's not a hard topic to figure out. Boys on one side, girls on the other, transgender will create something for you so that you're safe and secure from harassment and anything else as well.
Man, Leo, man, I really appreciate this. I got to tell you, I didn't know much about you other than the Kim Yeater interview, but this is, I mean, you presented an extremely convincing case, and I got to tell you, you're definitely. There's a few candidates that I'm certainly a fan of, and I got to. There's like probably 3 people now, and you're one of them, because I think your approach with, you have an everyman approach, but you also know what you're talking about, and I think this is what California needs. I mean, I look at somebody like a Gavin Newsom compared to you, it's almost like a plastic doll walking around, and you're like a real person with real experience.
I've had the opportunity. Let me tell you how difficult it is when you're a union person and you're negotiating contract talks with management at the county level. They don't like you at all. And we entered contract talks and negotiations with the county staff, and all the directors were present. The director of CPS herself was present. And I was told by our union director, that woman does nothing positive for the union. So I just wanted you to know that. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for telling me. And we went in there, we had a contract talk, we had negotiations about working conditions and everything else like that. My approach was, whatever example I gave, I understood management's concerns. I understood labor's concerns. How about we try this for the happy medium? The union people looked at me like I was an abject idiot. The management people looked at me like I was an abject idiot. But across the room, nobody noticed the manager from CPS, the woman that never did anything for the union, was in thought, deep thought. And after about 20 minutes, suddenly burst out, I want to hear his approach a little bit more because I like it. Everybody was caught flat-footed. The union was caught flat-footed. Management was caught flat-footed. We had an instant 15-minute break because of what just happened. She accepted my proposal for both sides being looked at. Let's meet in the middle for the happy medium. That was a first. My director even said that was the first time she's ever did anything positive for the union. If I can break through there, I'm pretty sure I can break through in a lot of places. And what I've generally told people as far as my candidacy goes right now, the powers that be don't want me in front of microphones, much less on programs like yours. They don't want me to give an opportunity to speak to the public. And why? Because if you give me 15 minutes, I'm going to probably start changing your mind or making you think about what you want to do for California. On one hand, that's great for me because I might get a supporter. But on the other hand, the people who want to stay in the loser column are going to do their very best, like they're trying to do now, to keep me silent and out of the picture and out of events because they don't want me to have that opportunity to speak to you as I'm speaking to you now. Plain, simple, matter of fact, here it is. There's no guile. There's no bluff. There's no what's behind the door, Leo. It is what it is. We go this way or we go that way. I'm about prosperity. They're about poverty. I'm about success. They're about mediocrity. It's that simple.
Wow. I mean, please take this podcast and share. I mean, you need to get on more podcasts. You really need to get on more podcasts,
If I can
know you.
If I can, sir, let me point out something and for your audience to know this too. This comes from the heart because this is the very first time I've ever met Mr. Miller in this forum. I've heard of him. I've seen him on X. We've kind of bounced back and forth, but I've never really met him. And the only time I did was over a year ago. And don't forget, I said I didn't forget you. Over a year ago, an announcement came out from somewhere in California that an assassination attempt was stopped by Sheriff Chad Bianco and his deputies. We did that. We stopped the third Trump assassin. And I was listening to this when I was driving around.
I'm laughing my ass off right now. Sorry.
I'm listening to this explanation with my wife in the car, and he's going in his explanation of what he did, describing you to a T, and I started to laugh. And my apologies to you in advance as I tell this story. Yes, I did laugh. My wife looks at me like, yeah, are you nuts? Do you know how serious the charges are? And I sure do. Do you know what that man is saying about this Miller guy? I sure do. Well, why do you find this funny? I said, because Chad Bianco was standing up there grandstanding for his campaign. You don't know that. Bullshit. Pardon my French. Watch. And a few hours later, here come the reports. First one was Donald Trump. There was no assassination attempt made against me. And if you believe that, something's wrong with you. I started to laugh some more. My wife looks at me now. What are you cracking up about? I said, do you realize what just happened? Donald Trump just made that man that said he stopped an assassination attempt look like a complete ass. If the target says it never happened, who the hell are you to claim that it did? And here's another funny thing that's going to happen. I don't even know who this Miller guy is, but I tell you what, Sheriff Bianco better pray to God that's exactly what that man intended to do, because if not, within 3 days, I think he's going to get sued for defamation. And what happened within 48 hours, that's exactly what Mr. Miller did. And where are we today? The sheriff is still withholding, from what I'm reading in reports, body cam footage of the entire event. He's still denying it. He would put an innocent individual at the mercies of the law to enhance his own candidacy as governor. What the hell would he do to California if we really had that man as governor and he really was trying to do something else? And we're not even talking about kneeling to the mob, the $625,000 a year paycheck he's still getting while he's campaigning. By the way, that contract doesn't expire until 2028. So I think in my non-political expertise self, I'm thinking that Mr. Bianco is going to probably drop for an excuse between now and March and cash in behind Mr. Hilton. That's my professional and political humble opinion.
Wow. Thank you for that, man. Thank you. I really appreciate that. He never thought I was an assassin. I mean, it was definitely, it's been an adventure.
A blind man could see that, what was going on, which is really sad. And the fact that it happened, and unfortunately it happened to you, but the fact that it happened tells you about that man. You put somebody on the spotlight to that degree to enhance your own career. What the hell kind of individual does that? That's almost like me going around in the military, getting my joys off of frying soldiers just because I could. I never did that as a sergeant and NCO in the United States military. In my knowledge, I never fried a soldier. I've punished a few, yes. And that punishment was well-deserved, yes. Insubordination will do that to you. But to purposely do it just so I could get a ha-ha or enhance my prestige or something like that, that was the most disgusting display of a candidate's background on full view to the nation. And yet the party is pushing this guy on us as the candidate. The man nearly folded. You saw the interview. The man nearly folded when everybody thought Mel Gibson was going to show up. But then Mel Gibson stayed in Italy to do a movie. He kind of panicked when Kamala Harris was getting ready to jump in, but then she quit. And he still doesn't understand the concept. You got thrown overboard by the party for Mel Gibson. Then they courted you again. And then they threw you overboard when Steve Hilton showed up. My question to you gentlemen, since we keep always talking about splitting the vote, which one of you individuals is going to quit for the other one? Hey, I got an even better idea. Why don't you both drop out and just go behind me? That would really be great. Since we're talking about vote splitting. Because you people seem to be there to raise tickets to get money for central committees. That's what a North Californian Central Committee leader up here has said, and it's recorded to have been said. I'm here to win an election, to change this state, to help the citizens that are in it, to hopefully stop everybody from leaving, and to fight for the ones who can't, whatever the reasons are. But why should we leave when they're the problem? That's what I'm trying to do. And the biggest problem and the first impediment I have is my own damn party. And we're not even talking about the Democrats yet, but they're next.
Yeah, yeah, tonight. What happened tonight is a warning shot. I mean, look, it's very simple math. You know, if they had organized what was happening in New York, right now it would be neck and neck. You know, if you had a
Yep.
person and Cuomo, you know, and it just seems as though there was a critical mistake made there in leadership. They should have seen this way months ago, and they should have said only one person because we're going to lose this race. You know.
Sheriff Bianco has refused to show up to the governor debate on the 8th of November. If you listen to somebody else explain it, Sheriff Bianco had a scheduling conflict, wasn't aware of this, and that's why he's not going to be there. Well, that's BS.
Yeah.
Mr. Hilton says he's going to be there, but he supposedly is leading in the polls. And when you ask the pundits, when you're leading, you don't go to debates and put yourself at risk of being embarrassed. Well, you're going to get some tough questions on your socialistic tendencies, the socialistic people that you're hanging with when you do the secret squirrel California regiment, let's all kumbaya and try to get together to make a slate for California. What the hell do you think's going on with that? Some of those people are not conservative. They're embracing socialistic ideas. And the saddest part about it is one of them is a veteran. And that's unfortunate. But he stated it. He's come out with it. He was challenged and he said, yes, that's where I'm going. Wow. Seriously? But yet you're hanging as if you've been buddies with this individual forever and a day. That was reported too, by the way, of the meeting that you had after the GOP convention in September. No staff, nobody else there, just you guys having a sit down and figuring out where we go from here. And you're getting ready to have another one on the 16th or the 19th, not sure exactly which day, it keeps changing. You're going to have another meeting with individuals, only this time you've invited somebody who's embraced, I'm not saying talking, I'm saying embrace anti-Semitic viewpoints. And that was Mr. Langford with the Holocaust picture of Auschwitz and posting that as his solution to homelessness in California. I pounced on him like a starving person looking at a piece of meat on the ground and let the people in Israel know who reported that, the Auschwitz Museum that complained about it and said, there is no way, shape, form, or hell this man represents the Republican Party, a Republican candidate, and he sure as hell isn't representative of anything I stand for. And I have to apologize for his stupidity. Not one other candidate came out against that man, but yet they're getting ready to hold a forum with that man. I keep warning those folks, you play with this long enough, don't worry about what's going to happen to them. You're the candidate. It's your reputation on the line. Don't spout the red, white, and blue while you're convorting with the Nazi symbolisms in the background, white supremacists, and anything else you want to call those type of people. But that's what you're doing. And Mr. Hilton, you're playing with them a lot.
Leo, man, this has been incredibly powerful, informative. I really enjoyed this interview. Thank you.
I thank you very much.
Yeah, and I want to give you the mic right now because I want you to speak to the people, whatever message you have before we wrap up this episode.
Sure. Let me make this short and brief. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Leo Naranjo IV. I'm a candidate for governor in 2026. And my first and foremost reason for running in this race is for the citizens of the state of California, the citizens of this state. I'm not here for corporations. I'm not here for the party. I'm not here only for Republicans. I'm here for citizens of this state. My speech was long when I first uttered it in 2023 with a few minor alterations. It hasn't changed. It hasn't altered. I've been approached by candidates to drop out, and I've told them to get bent in so many polite words. I've been approached by a rich individual with $200 million in the bank. Leo, what's your plan B? Are you going to quit? No. I'm not quitting because you tell me to. I'm not quitting because the odds are adverse and against me, stacked as they are. Hell, I've been in the military, ma'am, sir, and anybody else that's interested in knowing about it. We face adversity all the time. I was stationed in a city 200 miles behind at the time what was enemy lines. My life expectancy, because I was admin, was only 3 minutes, 6 minutes for the infantry. Don't tell me about what adversity means to me. I already know what adversity means. I've been dealing with it my whole life and my whole career, especially against people who like success to not succeed, but who embrace failure as the norm. I'm not here for that. I'm here to win this state and bring it back from insolvency and the desperational point that it's at. I'm here to see prosperity and not poverty. I'm here to see kids who maybe one day want to be an Elon Musk, a Donald Trump, a state senator, a congressman, a legislature, a doctor, a philanthropist, an actor, an actress, whatever it is they want to be. I'm here to see kids dream for that to happen in their lives. But I'm not here to see kids trying to dream of an education they seem not to be getting in this state. I don't want to see people hanging their heads in shame because of drugs, alcohol, and mental illness. I want to see their heads held high, looking for meaningful purpose when they go about doing whatever it is that they do. But we see too much of that laying around in the streets today, and we call it empathy, giving somebody a buck, which does nothing for them except to continue the cycle of self-destruction. We have people that are using homelessness as the crutch to destroy our cities. 1% of a population is ruining major cities in this state. Billions of dollars thrown at the problem, and it just exasperates and keeps getting worse. That's failure. That's incompetence, and that's damn near criminal. My goal is to get those people the help that they need. If they're on alcohol, drugs, we're going to get them into rehab facilities. And whether they want to be there or not, we're already past that point. If you're on narcotics, you have an option, rehab or jail, but you're not going to sit there and continue to do what you've been doing under the guise of I'm homeless and you can't touch me. We're going to bring back law enforcement. This nonsense of people taking over streets, that needs to end. This nonsense about arresting people, but that's all you hear are arrests. You don't hear about incarcerations. You wouldn't be hearing about incarcerations for the number of arrests because Mr. Newsom has closed down 4 prisons already, getting ready to drop a 5th. We're going to reopen some of those prisons under my watch. And if need be, we're going to remove some of them from this state and do what people have been doing in other agencies. We're going to farm that work out to some other people to let them deal with our problem and ease the burden of overcrowding in California. We're going to be the first state in this nation to not tax our people because we are the last state that keeps doing it. We're going to respect the veterans as we should have been doing by removing that burden from their retirement pay and benefits and stopping that taxation of their checks. We're going to look at the costs in this state and we're going to drop them by 50%. That's my goal, at least 50%. But we also have to cut spending corresponding amounts. Some of the candidates are very brazen when they say they want to get rid of state tax. They want to get rid of income tax. They want to get rid of this tax. They want to get rid of that tax. They're telling you all the wonderful things that you want to hear, that they want to reduce. They want to reduce your debt, but they're not explaining how they're going to reduce the spending. Sometimes it's not what people say. Sometimes it's what people aren't saying that you need to look at just as hard. I want to reduce your income costs in California. But what are you going to reduce spending-wise to correspond to the reduction of revenue? And raising revenue to offset a reduction is not going to be it under my administration. I want California to be the 3rd largest economy in the world by what it produces, what it grows, and what it sells to the world, not from what we tax and steal from our citizens. We have economic abilities in this nation. We always complain about narcotics, drugs, or anything else helpful in the medical community. I want to see California be the medical community of this nation, much less the state, and produce the medicines that we need at a cheaper rate here, not overseas. I want to see the ability of a city way up north, Crescent City, I believe it is. I want to utilize that port for the potential that it is and stop giving the excuses of why we can't insert the agency that's roadblocking that. Palisades, I understand most of you folks are blue and you probably hate my guts because I'm a Republican, but guess what? I want to see your homes rebuilt and you back in them, as opposed to looking at that blight that we're seeing daily from down there. And I've been down there walking around. It's heartbreaking and heart-rendering to see what happened. And it's still standing as nothing is being done, whether by the mayor, whether by the governor, whether by assembly, nobody has done a thing. I'm going to be the guy that's going to start removing those roadblocks. If you want to sue me, I'll see you in court. That's what I have lawyers for. That's what the state will deal with. If you think I'm violating a constitutional statute, hey, let's bash that out in courtroom and see who's right. And maybe you are right. Okay, but I'm going to approach it in a different way to get to the point where I'm right and I'm going to do what's right, which is fix that area down south and bring those people back to homesteading as opposed to instead of a home. That's what I plan to do. Unlike some of the other candidates, I'm not here talking platitudes, promises, or guarantees. You won't hear the word promise or guarantee in my rhetoric. Much as I can, I don't use those words. But I can assure you we're going to get things done in this state. If you know anything about the military, you know what an NCO does when you give them a mission and a task to do, and I'm going to do it. Lead, follower, get out of my way. It's very simple. If you want to join my cause, great. I'd love you to be here. If you want to stand by the side and cheer, outstanding. Donate if you can. I'd appreciate that too. But if you're a roadblock to success and progress, get out of my way because I'm going to bowl you over. The niceties are getting smaller and smaller as we get closer and closer to the debate. And unfortunately for Republicans, we don't like to be harmful or hurtful or argumentative with our counterparts. This is a different world. This is not the world of the Reaganites. This is not the world of Ronnie Reagan. And there's a lot of things going on where you're going to have to start telling people the truth. You don't want to disparage another candidate. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, you've been doing that as a party. 2 people are running for governor on the Republican side. You've disparaged the other 23, and I'm one of them. So when we start asking the hardball questions to your picks, don't get mad. Make sure they're prepped. Make sure they can answer them, and make sure they don't have Kamala Harris disease where they run away at the first sign of adversity or kneel to mobs because it's the safe thing to do. That candidate is already toast. He just doesn't know it yet. The other one is still lying about his citizenship status. You're propping him up, and he's getting ready to falter too. Figure it out and do it quickly because we have a state to save, and start looking about what's happening here in California and stop worrying about what Gavin Newsom can do in Washington, D.C. 3 years later. My name is Leo Naranjo IV, candidate for governor. You can find me at leonaranjo4governor.com. Support when you can, PayPal, check in, Zell it in. Anything will help. And that's what I got for you tonight. Have a great evening. Thank you very much for this opportunity, Mr. Miller. I look forward to meeting you in person on the 8th of November down in San Marcos. You guys have a wonderful weekend.
Leo, thank you so much, brother. Thank you. This was a very impressive interview. I'm just going to close you out here and have a final word with the folks watching, but looking forward to seeing you, brother. This was very impressive. Sir. Thank you,
I
sir.
greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
I appreciate you, sir. So that was, I just wanted to have a little word at the end of this interview because that was actually one of the most impressive interviews, actually, because I went into this thing, my goal is to interview as many Republican candidates and Democratic candidates for the California governor's race, just because that's what we do. We want to make sure everybody has their voice. And I came into this interview just going, hey, let's give Leo a chance. I saw the Kim Uter interview. I thought he was very well spoken there. But frankly, this kind of blew me away because, after doing, hundreds of interviews, the way the words were coming out of Leo's mouth, I didn't even have to agree with everything he said. I agreed with most things he said, but the confidence with which the words were coming out of his mouth. I mean, there was not a pause. This guy didn't have a script. And I know some, people are very, big fans of how Trump talks, off the cuff. And I do appreciate that. Hearing Leo talk, he was talking off the cuff, but boy, I mean, I was just really impressed. I was impressed with what ease the words were coming out of his mouth. And sometimes you see people struggle. He certainly blew me away in this interview. He certainly became one of my top 3 candidates. And we just look forward to seeing what happens in this race. This is a very important race. We can't allow what happened in New York to happen in California. And that's where this is destined unless we get this thing straight. So in closing, I'm going to play this reel from our sponsors. This company is called GadjuMining.com, and it's a cryptocurrency that I've become a part of in sense of supporting this cryptocurrency because I think they have some really amazing ideas. Part of what they're doing is they're actually setting up a marketplace. So not only could you mine crypto at home, there's a Shopify/Amazon like marketplace where you could set up your own store and essentially trade out of the gadget currency, change it to dollars, change it to Bitcoin, whatever you want to do. And I thought this was a brilliant idea because a lot of our problems stem from our financial system, the centralization of the financial system. And what I learned from these Gadju guys that was very impressive was that this is truly, really one of the first truly decentralized cryptocurrencies. And the way I explain that is, if you want to get into Bitcoin, you want to get into other crypto, you're going to spend a lot of money for mining machines. It costs a lot of money. It's prohibitive for regular folks. And what these guys did is they made it available to regular folks, because you can buy yourself a $2,000 computer, get mining. There's a community where you could trade, where you could set up a store, all through blockchain. And so Gaju mining is something that I personally support. I'm going to play this reel, and then we're done with this episode. Thank you very much for joining us. Tomorrow we have an episode with Chief Mato. Really great episode. Thursday we have an episode with Brandon Joe Williams. And much more coming on the Blood Money podcast and the America Happens Network. Thank you for joining us. I will see you all on the next episode of Blood Money.
Over the last 30 years, we have seen the value of our work diminish and the price of real assets like land and homes increase to the point that for most people under the age of 40, the hope of owning their own home has been lost. The response of governments around the world to the 2008 global financial crisis and COVID was to defer the cost of these events to the future. They did this by printing money, in effect selling our futures to pay for their bad decisions. This is corporatism, not capitalism. Money printing didn't hurt those in power, nor those who supported them, because they had real assets, property, shares and businesses that rose in price to match the inflation of money supply. But for most of us around the world, it sold our future for a fraction of its value. In response to this, a mysterious figure known as Satoshi Nakamoto created Bitcoin. He wanted to create a currency that could not be printed on command, thereby devaluing our labor. A currency that could be traded electronically between people without intermediation, allowing all of us to participate fairly in the economy. But if you tried to buy your groceries with Bitcoin, you'd stand at the checkout for at least 10 minutes, probably hours, waiting for the transaction to process, and the fee would cost you more than the carton of eggs and bag of apples. Bitcoin's limitations meant that it stopped being considered a currency in 2016 and was instead called a store of value. But it opened the door for someone to create a genuine currency that nobody controlled, but everyone could use. That someone is us. We created the Gajumaru blockchain and the Gaju currency. The Gaju is real money you can use, whether that is to buy a loaf of bread, pay for a haircut, buy a t-shirt, in fact buy or sell anything. It is a currency for everyday use. On Gaju Market, anyone can buy and sell any legal goods or services, just like you would on eBay, but at a fraction of the cost. Like Bitcoin, Gajus are mined on a computer. Unlike Bitcoin, mining Gajus does not require specialized equipment, nor huge power supplies. During our protected rollout, you can mine this on everyday computers, like the ones that sit in your home doing nothing for most of the day. We are working to get millions of people like you to mine the Gajumaru and be rewarded with Gajus that you can then use as real money. At the end of 2026, the Gajumaru will open to public mining. By then, we will have brought together millions of people like you to mine the Gajumaru. This will create such powerful combined computing capacity across so many millions of people that the Gajumaru can remain highly decentralized, enabling an economy for the people, by the people. To make all of this possible, we offer a variety of mining packages that combine all of the software and services you need on our website, gajumining.com. The software is simple to install, and there is a step-by-step guide that will get you mining and participating quickly and easily. You can buy those packages now. You can start mining the Gajumaru and being rewarded in Gajus now. Select a suitable mining package from the gajumining.com web store. Install and activate the software on your device and start mining today. This is an opportunity to be part of a movement to restore our humanity, our dignity, our sovereignty, creating a better future for everyone. For the first time in thousands of years, you will directly benefit from your work, your ideas, without being taxed by intermediaries or needing permission to be part of the global economy. We believe that capitalism is I win, you win, we all win, not I win, you lose. That's corporatism. We refuse to pursue venture funding that would demand we play the corporatist game, and chose instead to grow this movement by giving everyone the opportunity to benefit from their contribution to the movement. Just like being able to mine Bitcoin in 2008 or 2009, getting early access to mining the Gaju Maru now allows you to mine the greatest number of Gajus and benefit most from being part of this movement. We want to share that with you. We want the whole world to be part of this. We want everyone who cares about our future to get on board and take this from a movement to a reality. We want to see an economy for the people, by the people, now. Join us. Put your fingerprints on humanity's story, our history. Be a leader in the economic emancipation of humanity. It's simple. Go to gajumining.com, select the mining package that's right for you, and get started today.